Hi, welcome to 2 Minute Tips. This week's tip is about the B flat chord. A lot of people don't like the B flat chord, usually because it's the first bar chord they come across, and because the B flat bar chord is at the first fret, which is actually the hardest fret to bar at. Now this is for several reasons. One is simply because it's closest to the nut. The other reason is something you can do something about, which is badly set up ukes. It's a sad fact that a lot of ukes, particularly cheaper ones, do not have a low enough action at the nut. And if you're playing at the first fret, you're really fighting the instrument. So that's a big thing to check. Make sure that you haven't got a very high action at the nut that stops you holding down that bar at the first fret. If your uke is set up properly, here's a few things you can try. I'll try and keep this really clear and short. First of all, think about how many strings you bar. The books will show you barring 2 strings. That's fine. It's not so great if you want to go from a B flat to a B flat 7, because then you've got to cover that string, or a B flat minor because you've got to cover the 3rd string. I tend to bar all 4 strings all of the time when I'm playing these chord shapes. But still, look at my finger. I'm not just barring all 4 strings, I'm actually going beyond. And that's because it's doing 2 things. It's lining up the little grooves in my fingers so that they're not allowing the strings to fall into them. I'm trying to hit the strings with the fleshier parts of my fingers. I'm also, when I do that, putting all of these fingers in a better place to reach all of the other strings. So I'm not trying to... See, that's a bit of a squash for me if I bar right up to the top of the fingerboard. Nowhere near as comfortable as that. The other thing is which part of your finger you bar with. Whether you bar with the face of your finger or the edge of your finger. I recommend pulling your elbow into your side a little bit and rotating your hand very slightly so that instead of barring with the flat of your finger, you're barring just a little bit with the edge of your finger. Only maybe 30 degrees. That also gives these fingers a lot more movement space before they start clanging into strings for making shapes, and you'll get better contact with that finger than if you try and use the face of your finger. Finally, don't squeeze. If you're squeezing really, really hard, then you're doing something else wrong, or your uke's not set up properly. So here's a B flat without my thumb on the back. It's not perfect, but I only have to put a tiny bit of pressure on to make it perfect. It's not a squeeze, it's just a tiny, tiny little bit of pressure. If you're squeezing hard, you're going to get tired, you're going to find it's hard to move around, and it's going to sound clunky and clumsy. You want to be putting as little pressure on as possible. Hope this helps. Persevere with it. It's one of those chords that once you get that first bar chord, all the other bar chords fall into place and everything becomes a whole lot easier. But it's one of those little hurdles that you have to get over when you're playing. Don't panic about it, don't avoid it, but also don't practice doing it wrong. Don't practice, oh, I'll have to squeeze super hard on my B flat chord. Don't. If that's the problem, if you're having to squeeze hard to make it clear, go back, isolate it and go, why am I having to squeeze so hard? What could I change that would make it more comfortable and more easy for me to do? Hope this helps. See you next time. Bye.